Well, I think one of the first things we all observe when we're with children is that they are not experiencing the world in the same way that we are. And for a few years we get this chance to see how the brain can develop differently when a child is just present all the time, is living in the moment now. And then gradually we start to introduce them to the outside world, and we say that this way of being is not acceptable. They must be more responsible. They have to understand that what they do has consequences, and they have to learn things, otherwise they won't get a job, and they have to get a job because otherwise they won't have money, and if they don't have money, etc. So we can observe in children, our children and other people's children, this move away from this innocent state of being into a more intellectual way of experiencing the world. Whenever you get into discussing meditation and enlightenment, I think you very quickly get to this point where you have to say, is the brain a good thing or a bad thing? Is it working for you or against you? If you go to war with your brain, you will lose. You know, it's impossible to do because you are. It's like going to war with your hand. You know, how do you do it? So I think the secret is not to think that the brain is your enemy, but just to understand that there are many different ways of thinking. One way of thinking is quite calm and quite objective and quite neutral. You simply observe a situation and you evaluate it. Once you start to bring in your experiences, then you start to colour that. You start to change it. So it's not so much, I think, that the brain is the enemy of meditation. It's that the untrained brain is the enemy of meditation. You know, the panicky, neurotic, repetitive brain is the enemy. But we would not be who we are today without our brains. So, you know, I love the mind. I think it's a wonderful thing. But we just have to be very careful that we are living life and not thinking about living life.
This is the frequency.
It's very difficult to say where anything is, you know. Where's your heart? Where's your brain? You know, and to help us, we have these separations. You know, we have the concept of the chakras, or we have the head, the heart, the soul, whatever. These are very difficult, you know, things to imagine as boxes. So I just don't know. I think it's all over. But yes, essentially, the ego seems to get stronger when you use your brain to define yourself. And the thing that you're trying to avoid is this sense of otherness. If you have a thought about someone and it's inclusive, if that thought is, well, Atosa's different from me, but she's kind of really the same, we're on the same journey, it's just a different presentation, then that is not an egotistical thing for me. But if I think, oh, Atosa's interesting, but I don't think she knows what I do, or I don't think she could ever feel what I felt, or something like that, then immediately you have created an ego. You have created a separation and a sense of otherness. So the ego really is our enemy, I think. Again, you can't get rid of your ego, and you shouldn't, because it's what makes you, you know, a particular person. But I think you have to be very careful whenever a thought brings up this idea idea that you might be better than someone else, or that they have problems and you don't, or anything like that. What I felt right from the beginning was that because this is a very unusual project, and because it does not give you a list of answers, to your questions, then it would be very hard to just find a big, massive audience just out there. Oh, the people who liked Harry Potter are going to love this. It's not that kind of project. But what I did feel was that there was a huge audience that could be made up of lots of little groups of people. And I think that we are already finding that the people who like the frequency come from very, very different backgrounds. That again is why I have made it 4 different levels, so that we can send the dance music to people who just like dancing and music. If I sent them another level where people sat down and talked very seriously about life and everything, they might not like that. By the same token, if I sent that dance music out to a different age group or a different interest group, they might just say, I don't like this music. So I think the whole site is designed to have something for everybody. And I think we will eventually have a really big following. But it's not going to be one demographic, if you know what I mean. It's not going to be one existing group. I think it's going to be made up of lots and lots of people who find a common interest. Yes, there were a lot of tough decisions. When you encourage people just to do their work, to make things, I'm very much the kind of person who's, if somebody says, I'm interested in this, then I say, okay, have a go. Try and do it. You want to make a video for us, then make a video for us. The problem is, if they make something and I don't feel it's right, I don't feel it's part of the frequency, or sometimes when I'm working, with very inexperienced people, I just don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's, a finished enough piece of work. Then you have to go to that same person and say, look, I'm really sorry, I know you've worked on this for a long time, but I don't feel it's right. And that's a very difficult thing for me to do because I'm a creative person myself, so it upsets me if people are upset. So inevitably you're going to leave out things which people feel are important, or you're going to disagree with people about the way you edit material or something. And at the end of the day, insofar as there is any director on this project, then it is my responsibility to direct it, to make those decisions. So I think any kind of leadership, especially in the area of a spiritual project,
This is the frequency.
a guru. I'm not a teacher, I'm just a student here. But at the same time, I do have to guide this project and make certain decisions. So that was tough to do. In terms of changing direction with the piece, then I think I did know that was going to be the case right from the start, because as I explained to you, because we weren't setting out on a path, I didn't say on Monday we'll record these scenes, on Tuesday we'll record these scenes, and then if that didn't work, I'd have to say the plan is changing. I was just not telling people any plan. I was just not describing a plan. So it couldn't really go wrong in that sense. And it made it very easy to change direction. On a usual day, I would just listen and someone would talk. I'd ask them about something, and at a certain point, their voice would change or their face would change. And I could see that they were talking about something they felt very strongly about. And that is, in a way, the skill of being a director. It's the same thing with an actor. A good actor will read a scene, it's fine, they've done their homework, it works, they say the words in the right order, and yet nothing really is happening. You feel they're not really connected to the character. So then you try a few different things, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And then in the course of that scene, they will say one line, and that one line feels bang, right in the center, right in the frequency. And you go, that's it, whatever that was, whatever it was that triggered off that thought, that's where we go. And that's the way I work with it, is to try and find those moments where I can sense that someone is much more passionate about one thing rather than another. And that's what I ask them about. And that's what I make the work for.
Be patient and flexible.
Yes, entirely. I mean, there are other projects where that doesn't work. You can't do an improvised animation film, for instance. It's just impossible because you've got to do 24 frames a second, So you have to plan that out, every single beat of it, in order to make it. But with something like this, we have the opportunity for it to be a genuine journey. And I think, again, that's something I'd really like to emphasize, is that this is not a website for me. It's an invitation to join us on a journey, on a spiritual journey.